Minister, it feels like hardly a week passes in here without the Dáil being asked to approve some fresh assault on our neutrality, and I have to say I am absolutely sick of it. The motion before us in this debate mightn't be the worst of them, but certainly the one we debated earlier was, and we can't see this present motion in isolation at all. Earlier we heard that the government has let the Irish state be bullied into signing up to an EU sofa for no good reason at all. Basically, the Germans told us that we couldn't play in their battle group in 2020 if we didn't sign up to an EU sofa. And rather than telling them, fine, that's grand, we're a neutral country, we don't want to play, off you go. Instead, the government come in here to relay the Germans' instructions as if they were some sort of commandments carved on a stone tablet. And I think we have a responsibility to say they're not. We no more need to be part of an EU sofa than we need to take part in a German battle group. And, you know, we've heard a lot from the Minister, and he was at it again there earlier, talking about interoperability of our defence forces and other countries' armies, as if that was some sort of a given that nobody could question. But it isn't. We don't need to be interoperable with German forces if all we take part in are peacekeeping missions. The only reason that we would need to be interoperable with the German army or any other army is if one day we plan to go to war with them. And, you know, things must be pretty bad in here if you were to go by the discussion that took place at the Defence Committee last week, because I never thought I'd be in here quoting Deputy Barrett, and that's Sean, not Richard Boyd, former Minister for Defence and Fine Gael from the committee last week, when he said, I ask that we go back to do what we're best at, namely peacekeeping. We don't want all of this. Leave it to others. If they want to become part and parcel of battle groups are not peacekeepers. The word battle group means that they are trained to go into battle. Do we want to be part of battle groups? Since when do peacekeepers become involved in battle groups? With the greatest of respect, we're losing our way here. That's your former Fine Gael Minister for Defence, and I agree 100% with that statement. Something clearly has happened since the 1990s and changed in a very big way. As far as I'm concerned, it was a turning point around the Iraq War and against the invasion of Iraq and Afghanistan, and the use of Shannon Airport on a consistent basis by the US military. But that change, which began then, has actually accelerated massively in the recent past. And I think we've had a parade of vanity projects, very embarrassing militaristic posturing really to the hawks in the EU, whether it's battle groups or our Navy shamefully taking part in a military operation against desperate refugees, which obviously nobody has told the Labour Party about, in terms that they think it's somewhat something to save them. I find it hard to believe that anybody who grew up in this country could really be so misguided as to think that the economic benefits of war outweigh the devastation it causes. But that was actually almost the conclusion of the paper you quoted, Minister, by your colleague MEP Brian Hayes. And what was that, other than a kite-flying mission by a bunch of sort of Fine Gael couldn't do it themselves. They didn't want to be embarrassed by it, but throw it out there in the name of a bunch of unknowns that no one ever heard of and see how much it flagged. But that was the intent of that paper, and that's the direction that the head and the tops of the present defence forces seem to be going in, and I think it's a toxic as far as I'm concerned. You know, we have to stop this rot, and part of that job is to stop the efforts of this government to normalise almost weekly the gutting of our neutrality, because that's what we have here. So, you know, more than 60,000 troops going through Shannon last year isn't normal. It's not normal for Ireland to buy a Navy warship. Battle groups aren't normal. Going to war at sea against defenceless migrants isn't normal. None of it is normal, and I think the Irish public agrees with that. Therefore, we should be standing lock, stock and barrel against any further interaction in European defence policy and standing up once and for all for Irish neutrality.